How we doing, boys? Coming at you with another mock draft. This is a 10-team mock draft. I believe the last one I did was a 12-team, so this should have a little bit different outcomes. Obviously, off the board, we see McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, who are more or less the most common two to come off the drafts. Rounds out with Kamara and Elliott. So Derrick Henry actually fell to us here, so I'll just go ahead and draft him. Higher upside or in half PPR leagues, Aaron Jones might not be a horrible option there. I will say, though, I would avoid Barkley at all costs right now. The Giants are just crumbling. They have a lot of guys retiring, a lot of internal issues, obviously, with the organization. So not stuff I'm particularly interested in taking part of. So I would definitely suggest avoiding that if you could. Same with like Kenny Golladay. He's got his hamstring issue. Alright, so we are back with our second pick now. We have Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, and Joe Mixon available to us. Let's check out the wide receivers though. Hopkins, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson. I am going to go... I'm pretty high on Gibson. His turf toe is no longer a huge concern apparently. Additionally, I think Washington's going to have an amazing year. They have the opportunity to have a lot of positive game scripts, I guess kind of like at their disposal this year because of the fact that they have a really strong defense. So they should be able to kind of control the pace of the game a bit there. Additionally, I just love having Christian McCaffrey's former coach now coaching Washington and Antonio Gibson. He is one of those dynamic guys that can, if possible, right? So we saw J.D. McKissic get, I think, 80 receptions last year. So if Antonio Gibson gets anything close to that, we'll be doing all right. Like, he is an amazing receiver. He's like a David Johnson kind of guy. He is a converted wide receiver. So, and he's apparently looking very well in camp so far. They're stating that he's learned quite a bit, and he's like a completely different type of player now, which is great to hear. That's kind of what you want to hear, right, when you're kind of addressing your roster and stuff like that, and your younger players coming into the next season. We might be going pretty running back heavy here. We could also grab CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, I kind of like here as well. I'm feeling confident in the running backs, but I do also like J.K. Dobbins. But I think we can wait a bit. So we're going to go receiver here. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. He is just like Mr. Consistent in terms of wide receivers. So I'm going to get a nice floor guy. Justin Jefferson, he has that shoulder issue right now, and then CeeDee Lamb he's probably going to have an amazing year. But with Dak still questionable, it is a bit of a risk to jump on that train right now. Obviously, later in the year, this could change a little bit. Alrighty, so we are back with our fourth pick, looking at the wide receivers again. Cooper Kupp is standing out a bit to me here. There's too much going on in Tampa. I guess Lockett's all right as well. Let's check out the running backs. See, in this case, I feel like we have to go David Montgomery. He is just too valuable there. I guess we reached a little bit for him, but his ability to kind of stand out in that offense, I really think they're going to lean on the run quite heavily. So I think David Montgomery is a valuable choice there, and he's a guy I'm picking up a lot. I know they added another, I think it's a rookie running back. He'll do fine, but they're pretty high on Montgomery in the organization there, so I think they're going to utilize him as much as they can. Alright, we have another pick coming up. We should be looking to add some wide receivers here. Yeah, no tight ends at the moment. I think we're solid on running backs for a bit. So we're looking to probably get a high upside wide receiver. I'm a little concerned about the Cincinnati locker room. Honestly, if we can grab Julio, I think I would take that. Oh, and he goes one pick before we can snag him. All right, so now, yeah, we're in a tough spot here because there's a lot of receivers kind of in the same locker rooms. Let's look at the running backs again. We could grab Henderson, or we could reach a bit and grab Kyle Pitts. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. He seems more valuable right now. And some of the wide receivers can kind of fill in down the road. I'm pretty high on guys like Robbie Anderson. Cortland Sutton's way down here. We still have Gallup, Chark. Chenault is doing well. We could, try and sneak in Michael Thomas. I like Antonio Brown later in the draft as well. And Juju. I think Juju's going to be kind of slept on a little bit. Again, I'm pretty comfortable. I have a really solid floor with my running backs. So we're going to look to grab a receiver here now. And based off of what we have, I might lean a little towards Robbie Anderson. You see what he did last year, right? 95 receptions on 136 targets and 1,000 yards receiving. That volume is insane, and he only got 3 touchdowns out of that. So I think we can expect about the same volume, but he should have some positive outcomes with his touchdowns, which is going to obviously be super important for him to be able to kind of capitalize on some of that. So I think that is something to consider with Robbie Anderson. Is his volume and his output has been really strong. He's got a familiar quarterback in Sam Darnold right now. Additionally, there's been some talks of Carolina talking about keeping their eye on Deshaun Watson. So that's obviously in the cards as well. Robbie Anderson, I think, through the first 6 or 7 weeks was like top 3 in yards in the NFL. Carolina's going to be behind a lot. Their team's not incredible. And I think his rapport with Sam Darnold is going to be enough to kind of keep him relevant. And the respect that the defenses have to play towards Christian McCaffrey is going to help him quite a bit as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if he had like a pretty solid wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 kind of output, like a high end 3 or a low end 2. So I think he's a decent guy to take. I drafted him at 56, so I think that's a pretty comfortable spot to take him there. All right, so we are coming in now. We have 3 receivers and 3 running backs. I think I'm okay with kind of taking Antonio Brown here. Let's look at the quarterbacks also. Yeah, quarterbacks I'm comfortable taking. I might shoot for Herbert here. And then follow that up with one of the receivers, either Juju or Antonio. So Michael Carter was just taken, which is kind of interesting. But I also like the wide receiver stack here with the QB wide receiver with Herbert and Allen. And then we'll probably prioritize a receiver. Antonio Brown seems the safest to me. Even with that receiving room being kind of crazy, Antonio Brown did really well towards the end of the year. So I think there's a decent chance that he could continue his rapport that he has with Brady and, put up some respectable numbers in that sense. All right. So Antonio Brown just left the board, and so did Michael Thomas. So the 2 guys I was eyeing. So it looks like we're going to shoot for Juju here. Pretty high on Juju as well. Mostly because he's just like really consistent for the most part. Outside of 2019, which I believe was the year he was pretty injured, he's finished top 20 in all of his years he's played, averaging close to 100 receptions, close to 1,000 yards every year. And now that wide receiver room is a lot stronger than it used to be, it'll take some pressure off of him to perform. Where he didn't seem to have a strong year, but he finished top 20, I believe. So he's a good floor guy to have on your squad. So we're waiting for one more. Hopefully, this guy's got 4 receivers, so he shouldn't take him. but he still could, I guess. Okay, so if that is the case, then I think I might shoot for, I guess I'll take Damian Harris. That seems really safe. So we have a really, really solid running back core here. And then we'll look to grab, you know, another receiver here soon. Devontae Parker isn't a horrible option. Another guy that's like pretty consistent, right? Like one of the things we're looking for is like the targets. Horrible catch rate, but you can assume that like there's going to be some improvement in these categories. He hasn't had the best quarterbacks throwing him the ball either. So a lot of that stuff, and he just got activated off the top as well. Russell Gage is a great receiver to grab late in these mock drafts here. And that's something I think we'll probably do. We're high on tight end, which is great. I've heard a lot of good things about Mooney as well in training camp. I'm not sure if it's good enough that I want to take the risk on him. These guys right here in the 100 plus ADP, all super valuable picks. They're all, you know, producers in their offenses. I think Marvin Jones will be the wide receiver 1 for the first couple weeks, at least for Jacksonville, until you know, the offense settles in a bit. And same with Corey Davis. He's going to be wide receiver 1. I think Corey Davis is just going to get like 100 targets a game. Like, I don't see how you throw the ball to anyone else in that offense, really. Devontae Parker, he's an amazing athlete, as we know. Outside of, he's got, I guess, kind of an injury history. But 2019, he had a stellar year, and he was on pace to do the same in 2020. But I believe he got injured, which kind of hindered his ability a bit. But Russell Gage is the clear wide receiver 2 now in Atlanta. We see 100 plus targets for him, almost 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So that's all going to be on the upside. He could easily go 1,000 yards with 6 or 7 touchdowns this year. So I'm super high on the possibility of that. And then in the slight chance that Calvin Ridley gets injured at all, Russell Gage is going to be an absolute must-add on all waiver wires. All right, going to this next pick, we're looking a bit at the tight end spot. Nothing really striking me there. In terms of receivers, I guess Cole Beasley isn't a horrible option. Gets 100 plus targets every year. And we are at 5-5 with running backs and receivers. If anything happens to Stephon Diggs, I mean, they also have Emmanuel Sanders too, who is also very efficient in terms of like the volume he gets. But he only averages about 5 touchdowns a year. Let's look at Cole Beasley again, 4 to 6. I think I'm going to take the gamble and go Nelson Aguilar. He's just a higher upside guy. I am not incredibly high on him, at least as long as Cam is out there. They seem to be a power run offense in New England. Or I guess they are a power run offense in New England. I'm curious to see how much of the 2 tight end set we will see, you know, from years ago when it was Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, and now we have Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Nelson Aguilar could complement that nicely, though, as the guy that stretches the field a little bit. So hopefully we see a lot of efficiency out of him. And in a best ball league, he's a pretty solid pick because he'll have those 1 or 2 games where he gets an 80-yard touchdown, you know, in one play, and that's automatically going to bump him up over maybe some of your more consistent guys. So he is a solid choice there. And late in the draft, I think he's a pretty safe pick up. All right, so we're pretty solid on receivers. We got 2 quarterbacks, so we're good there. We're looking for maybe 1 more running back. I like J.D. McKissick, even though it kind of counteracts a Gibson play here. But this is what I like about J.D. McKissick. There was 1 other running back in the league that had a number higher than that, and that was, I believe, Alvin Kamara. And outside of that, the next highest receptions was like in the 60s. So he's getting more receptions than most receivers get. So that's going to give him a pretty solid floor there. And in PPR, obviously, that's pretty amazing. So he's going to have those games where he gets like 7-8 receptions with some relative frequency. So he is a pretty good, safe backup for a lot of us here. And if there's any games where Gibson's out, you'll see McKissick really involved, because Gibson does have his little turf toe thing still bothering him, I would imagine. Even though he was cleared and everything, I'm certain that there's still some potential issues with that. So yeah, I think we're going to go with McKissick here. I do like him. Xavier Jones has apparently been pretty optimistic in camp as well. But we'll go with the safe play. I don't need a whole lot more upside than what I already have. Derrick Henry and Antonio Gibson alone are going to be enough to really dominate. Alright, so let's look at other quarterbacks. This is probably where we start looking at Deshaun Watson, other tight ends, other flyers here. I'm kind of okay with Anthony Ferkser as a sleeper. With Jonnu out, yes, they added Julio, but he's, Ryan Tannehill still likes to use his tight end there, so I'm okay with that. Jonnu Smith is another guy that could see an amazing year, depending on how they utilize that tight end set in New England. And he's just an absolute freak athlete, so I'll probably add him to my list of guys I want to pick up. And then I think we only have room for like one more. Jared Cook is also a decent option as well. That LA offense is pretty solid. They don't have Hunter Henry anymore, who had 60 receptions last year. Jared Cook alone had, I think, 40 receptions, as you see there. But he's really efficient in the red zone. You see 7 touchdowns, 9 and 6. So with Hunter Henry kind of on the outs, obviously, because now he's in New England, and Jared Cook being brought into LA, I think Jared Cook could have a sneaky old man season like he's kind of been having for some time. We saw Rob Gronkowski do something quite similar last year. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities for Jared Cook to really impress this year as just a super efficient tight end. Yeah, no other guys that I'm like dying to grab. I guess Rashad Penny. I might just send a flyer on Xavier Jones just because that backfield is so thin. Because none of the rest of the guys are super enticing for me. So I think I will shoot for Xavier. Then I believe I have 2 picks, and that's probably going to go to either Jonnu and Jared Cook or Deshaun Watson. I think I am going to go with Jared Cook, and then that should finish us off. Pretty solid roster so far. So again, amazing quarterback room, amazing running backs. Is a very solid lineup in my opinion. And then we have some decent upside at wide receiver, and then tight end is pretty solid as well. And I think Jared Cook will round off tight end nicely for us. So Kyle Pitts is a little higher upside. Jared Cook is a pretty solid floor. And that will do it for us, boys. We will catch you next time. Stay tuned. We're going to have more of a strict schedule coming up in terms of output on videos and whatnot like that. So hopefully you guys stay tuned to that, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.